Good evening and welcome. No matter where you are in the world, whether this night is quiet or restless, you are safe here. Tonight, I will gently tell you the story of Athena, goddess of wisdom and calm strength, a myth not meant to awaken the mind, but to soothe it and guide you slowly into rest. So settle in, let your thoughts soften, and allow the night to unfold. Before Athena existed, the world of the gods was loud, unstable, and ruled almost entirely by force. Power was measured in dominance. Authority was maintained through fear, punishment, and raw strength. The heavens were not guided by wisdom. They were controlled by whoever could seize control and defend it. Zeus sat at the center of this order. He was king, but his rule was not calm. It was defensive. He had overthrown his own father, just as his father had overthrown the one before him. Every reign in divine history had ended the same way. A son rose, a father fell. The pattern repeated without exception. Zeus understood this pattern, and it shaped every decision he made. The gods around him reflected this reality. Ares embodied violence without reflection. Poseidon ruled through temper and fret. Even Hera's power often moved through jealousy, punishment, and retaliation. Intelligence existed among the gods, but it was scattered and unfocused. There was no single force that represented restraint, planning, or long vision. No guiding presence that valued foresight over reaction. The universe moved forward, but blindly. Conflict erupted without warning. Alliances formed and broke based on emotion rather than strategy. Power answered power, and nothing stood above that cycle. This absence mattered more than it seemed. Without wisdom, power becomes unstable. Strength reacts. It does not anticipate. It does not consider consequence. The Olympian world was strong, but it was fragile. Every dispute carried the risk of escalation. Every insult carried the seed of war. Zeus knew this, even if he never admitted it aloud. He was haunted by prophecy, not vague prediction, but certainty. He knew that his reign, like the ones before it, could end through birth, through succession, through a child who would surpass him, challenge him, and replace him. So Zeus ruled with caution. He listened for threats. He watched alliances closely. He controlled marriages and unions. Love to him was not romance. It was risk. Every relationship carried the possibility of creating a future enemy. At this point in time, wisdom existed only in fragments. It appeared in moments of foresight, in brief acts of planning, in instincts that vanished as quickly as they formed. There was no embodiment of wisdom. No god who stood for strategy over impulse, or judgment over emotion. The gods did not question this imbalance. It was the only order they had ever known. Chaos followed strength, and strength followed desire. No one asked whether there could be another way. This is where Athena's story truly begins. Not with her birth, but with her absence. With a world that had not yet learned how to think before it acted. With gods who had power but not perspective. Athena would not arrive to bring peace. She would arrive to bring structure, to introduce something the gods had never fully possessed before. Not mercy, not kindness, but clarity. Before Athena, there was force. After Athena, there would be understanding. But that understanding came at a cost, and it began with a prophecy that Zeus could not ignore. A prophecy that would force him to act, and in doing so, change the order of the gods forever. The silence before Athena was not calm. It was tension waiting to break. That silence held fear and held anticipation. It held the unspoken knowledge that power alone could not sustain eternity. Something was missing, and the gods felt it even if they could not name it. The age of raw dominance was reaching its limit. The next era would demand thought, discipline, and restraint, and it would begin not with thunder, but with wisdom. For Zeus, this realization was unbearable. He could control storms and law, but not fate itself. The future pressed against him, unseen but unavoidable. Every choice he made narrowed his path. Every delay increased the danger. The world stood on the edge of transformation, unaware that its balance was about to change forever. This moment, before Athena, is not remembered for action. It is remembered for pressure, for the weight of what had not yet happened. Because once wisdom entered the world, nothing would remain the same. The gods believed power was enough. History would soon prove otherwise. Athena's absence defined the world, just as her arrival would redefine it. This was the final moment before wisdom took form. The last breath of an age ruled only by strength. What followed would reshape gods and mortals alike, beginning with a choice driven by fear. And that choice would give birth to Athena. Not from love, not from chance, but from necessity. The silence was about to end, and with it, the old order. Wisdom was coming. The gods could not stop it. They could only endure it. Athena would soon exist. The balance would shift. The prophecy did not arrive suddenly. It had existed long before Zeus ever heard it spoken aloud. Like many prophecies in Greek mythology, it was less a prediction and more a statement of inevitability. It described not what might happen, but what would happen if certain forces were allowed to move unchecked. At the center of this prophecy was Metis. Metis was not a goddess of spectacle. She did not command storms or armies. She did not rule a realm or demand worship. Her power was quieter, and for that reason, more dangerous. Metis was the embodiment of cunning intelligence, foresight, and deep thought. She represented wisdom before it took form, strategy before it was spoken, planning before action. She was a Titaness, older than the Olympian gods, born of a previous order that Zeus himself had overthrown. That alone made her significant. But her true importance lay in what she could produce. The prophecy stated that Metis would bear children of unmatched power. The first would be a daughter, wiser and stronger than her mother. The second would be a son, greater than his father, a ruler destined to overthrow Zeus, just as Zeus had overthrown Cronus. This was not symbolic language. It was direct. Zeus understood it immediately. He had lived this cycle. He had benefited from it, and now it threatened him. Zeus had already learned that brute force could not defeat prophecy. His father had tried. His grandfather had tried. Each attempt to escape fate had only guided fate closer to fulfillment. Zeus believed himself more intelligent than those who came before him. He believed he could outthink destiny. At first, Zeus approached Metis not as a threat, but as an asset. He admired her mind. He relied on her counsel. In some versions of the myth, it is Metis who advises Zeus during the Titanomachy, helping him defeat the Titans and secure his rule. Wisdom helped him gain power. That irony would not be lost on him later. Their union was not driven by affection. It was driven by calculation. Zeus believed that proximity to wisdom meant control over it. That by keeping Metis close, he could monitor the prophecy and manage its outcome. But prophecies do not bend to proximity. They do not weaken through observation. They wait. As time passed, Zeus became increasingly uneasy. Metis was not merely wise. She was independent. Her intelligence was not granted by Zeus, nor was it dependent on him. She carried knowledge older than his rule, older than the Olympians themselves, and now she carried his child. The prophecy began to feel less like a distant threat and more like an approaching certainty. Zeus faced a dilemma with no clean solution. If he killed Metis, the prophecy might still unfold through some other path. If he allowed her to give birth, he risked his own downfall. If he imprisoned her, it would provoke consequences he could not predict. So Zeus chose an option that appeared clever, an act that seemed to him like mastery over fate. He swallowed Metis. His act was not violent in the way other divine acts were violent. It was deliberate, calculated. Zeus transformed Metis into liquid form and consumed her, believing that by absorbing her, he would also absorb her wisdom, her power, and most importantly, her unborn children. In Zeus's mind, this solved everything. The threat was contained. The prophecy was neutralized. Wisdom had been internalized. No son could be born to overthrow him if the mother no longer existed as an independent being. But wisdom cannot be destroyed by consumption. It does not vanish when silenced. It adapts. Inside Zeus, Metis continued to exist. She continued to think. She continued to shape what she carried. The prophecy had not ended. It had simply moved inward. Zeus began to experience something unfamiliar. Not fear, but pressure. A growing discomfort that could not be explained by injury or illness. His thoughts became crowded. His mind strained against itself. The wisdom he believed he had consumed was not passive. It was active, creative, persistent. This is where Zeus made his greatest mistake. He believed the prophecy was about physical birth alone. He did not consider that wisdom itself could find another way to emerge. By swallowing Metis, Zeus had not prevented Athena's arrival. He had ensured it. He had placed wisdom directly within the seat of power. He had created the conditions for something entirely new. Not a child born of flesh, but of mind. The prophecy was never about replacing Zeus through force. It was about transforming the nature of power itself. Metis did not disappear. She became preparation. She became the silent architect of what was to come. Within Zeus, she forged honor. She shaped thought. She refined intelligence into form. Zeus believed he had won. The universe, however, was simply waiting. The prophecy had done its work. The path was set. Wisdom was no longer outside the throne. It was inside it, and soon it would emerge in a way no god had anticipated. The silence before Athena was over. The pressure inside Zeus was the beginning of her existence. The pressure inside Zeus did not fade. It grew. What began as discomfort slowly became unbearable. This was not pain as the gods understood pain. It was density, weight, a tightening within thought itself. Zeus, ruler of the sky, found that his greatest struggle was no longer external. It was within his own mind. The other gods noticed the change. Zeus grew silent. His temper shortened, then vanished. He withdrew from council. Thunder no longer followed his moods. The heavens waited without instruction. Something had disrupted the rhythm of divine rule. Zeus attempted to endure it. Endurance had always been his strength. He had survived war, betrayal, and prophecy before. But this was different. This was not an enemy he could strike, not a rival he could imprison. The force inside him was not hostile. It was precise, ordered. It pressed outward with intention. The pressure began to localize. Zeus felt it behind his eyes, deep within his skull. His thoughts no longer moved freely. Each idea seemed to collide with another. His mind became crowded, structured, constrained. Wisdom absorbed without consent was reorganizing him from the inside. Zeus called for aid. The gods gathered, uncertain and cautious. None had seen the king of Olympus weakened in this way. They offered remedies that failed. Strength did nothing. Magic offered no relief. Time only increased the strain. The pressure demanded release. At last, Zeus turned to Hephaestus, the god of craft and controlled force. Hephaestus understood structure. He understood how things were built and how they broke. Zeus did not explain the full truth. He did not need to. The situation was visible. Hephaestus approached Zeus with his axe. This was not an act of rebellion. It was obedience. Precision was required. Hesitation would be catastrophic. With a single strike, Hephaestus split open Zeus's skull. There was no blood, no chaos. From the opening came sound, not a scream, but a clear, ringing cry, a declaration of presence. Then form followed. Athena emerged. She did not crawl, she did not struggle. She rose fully formed, fully armored, and fully aware. She carried a shield. She carried a spear. Her armor was not decorative. It was functional, balanced, exact. She did not look around in confusion. She did not ask where she was. Athena knew. This was not a birth of instinct. It was a manifestation of completion. Athena did not grow into wisdom. She arrived as wisdom. She was not shaped by the world. She was shaped before entering it. The gods stood in silence. This was not fear. It was recognition. Something unprecedented had occurred. A god had been born not of union or chance, but of mind and necessity. Athena was not the result of desire. She was the result of thought. Zeus fell still. The pressure was gone. His mind was clear again, but changed. Wisdom no longer crowded him. It stood before him. Athena did not challenge Zeus. She did not bow. Her presence alone altered the balance. She was his daughter, but not his subordinate. She owed her existence to him, but not her authority. Her armor was not a sign of war. It was a sign of readiness. Athena did not seek conflict. She prepared for it. She did not crave dominance. She understood it. This was the meaning of her birth. Athena was the union of power and intellect, but without the excess of either. Where Zeus ruled through command, Athena would rule through counsel. Where others reacted, she would anticipate. The gods understood this immediately. Athena was not another competitor. She was a correction. Her emergence marked the first time wisdom took independent form among the Olympians, not scattered, not inferred, present. Athena's birth resolved the prophecy in a way Zeus had never considered. There was no son to overthrow him, no violent succession. The threat had been transformed into balance. Wisdom did not replace power, it refined it. Metis had fulfilled the prophecy without destroying Zeus. Her wisdom lived on, not hidden, but expressed. Athena was her continuation, not as mother and child in the mortal sense, but as thought made permanent. Athena stood among the gods, already complete. She did not need to prove herself. Her existence was proof. This moment redefined divinity. Strength was no longer supreme on its own. From this point forward, power would be measured not only by force, but by understanding. Athena's birth ended an age of reaction and began an age of strategy. The gods would still fight, mortals would still suffer, but the world would no longer be blind. Athena had entered existence without chaos, without blood, without rebellion. She was born from restraint, from fear managed through calculation, from wisdom forced into being by necessity. The silence that preceded her was gone. In its place stood clarity. Athena did not speak. She did not need to. Her presence answered the questions the gods had never asked. The universe had gained something it could never lose again. Wisdom now had a form. Athena took her place among the Olympians without ceremony. There was no celebration, no contest, no declaration of rank. Her presence alone forced the other gods to adjust. She did not demand space. Space was made for her. The Olympian order had always been defined by conflict and hierarchy. Status was earned through strength, lineage, or fear. Athena fit none of these categories neatly. She was powerful, but not aggressive. She was young, but carried ancient knowledge. She was the daughter of Zeus, yet not dependent on his authority. The gods observed her carefully. Some were unsettled, others were cautious. A few were immediately threatened. Athena represented something unfamiliar. She did not act on impulse. She did not react emotionally. She listened more than she spoke. And when she did speak, her words carried weight beyond volume. Zeus did not announce her role. He did not need to. Athena's function became clear through action rather than decree. She stood beside him in council, not as an advisor seeking favor, but as an equal voice of reason. Zeus ruled, Athena clarified. This dynamic changed the nature of Olympus. Decisions were no longer made solely through assertion or intimidation. There was now deliberation. Consequence was considered before command was given. Athena did not override Zeus's authority. She strengthened it by limiting its access. Among the gods of war, the contrast was immediate. Ares embodied violence driven by emotion. He thrived in chaos and confrontation. Athena represented war as discipline. Strategy replaced rage. Planning replaced impulse. This did not make her weaker. It made her effective. The gods understood this difference quickly. When disputes arose, Athena's presence reduced escalation. She did not stop conflict entirely, but she shaped it. She guided outcomes toward resolution rather than destruction. Even those who disliked her influence could not deny its impact. Athena did not align herself through affection. She chose principles over alliances. Justice mattered more to her than loyalty. This made her difficult to manipulate. Bribes, flattery, and threats had little effect. Her decisions followed logic, not desire. This independence set her apart from the Olympians. Many gods were bound by passion. Athena was bound by purpose. She valued order, but not rigidity. Flexibility existed within her thinking, but never without reason. Her relationship with Zeus evolved into one of mutual reliance. Zeus remained king, but Athena became the framework through which his rule stabilized. Where Zeus enforced law, Athena shaped it. Where Zeus punished, Athena judged. The gods noticed that Zeus listened to her. This alone altered the balance of power. Athena did not command armies, she commanded attention. Her influence spread quietly, through outcomes rather than decrees. Among the Olympians, some adapted, others resisted, but none could ignore her. Athena was not competing for dominance, she was redefining competence. Her presence also revealed the limitations of the other gods. Strength without strategy appeared reckless. Emotion without restraint appeared dangerous. Athena did not shame them openly. She exposed imbalance simply by existing. Over time, Athena became associated with stability. When she was present, decisions lasted. When she was absent, chaos returned more easily. The gods began to recognize that wisdom was not an abstract virtue. It was a practical necessity. Athena did not seek worship among the gods. She did not require validation. Her role was functional, not symbolic. She existed to think where others acted blindly. This made her both respected and isolated. She was admired, but rarely understood. Wisdom creates distance. Athena accepted this without complaint. Among the Olympians, a new standard emerged. Power was no longer measured only by force. Effectiveness mattered. Outcomes mattered. Foresight mattered. Athena had not overthrown anyone. She had not demanded change, yet Olympus was no longer the same. The gods began to see the cost of their own excesses through contrast. This was Athena among the Olympians. Not a disruptor, but a correction. Not a ruler, but a stabilizing force. Her presence marked the moment when wisdom became part of divine governance, not as an ideal, but as a necessity. From this point forward, no major decision could be made without consideration. Athena ensured that thought preceded action. Olympus had gained a mind to match its strength. And the gods would never again rule in ignorance of consequence. Athena's role continued to solidify through repetition rather than proclamation. Each time a conflict was avoided, her influence deepened. Each time a decision held firm over time, her value became undeniable. The Olympians were not accustomed to learning through patience, yet Athena forced them into it. She did not remove flaws from the gods. Pride, jealousy, and rivalry remained. What changed was awareness. Actions now carried reflection. Even when the gods chose poorly, they understood why. Athena made consequence visible. This visibility altered relationships. Disputes that once escalated into prolonged feuds were sometimes resolved through compromise, not out of kindness, but efficiency. Athena taught that endless conflict weakened all sides. Her presence also reshaped how the gods viewed mortals. Mortals were no longer only tools or distractions. They became variables to be understood. Athena introduced the idea that guidance would be more powerful than control. This perspective unsettled some gods. It required restraint. It required patience. Athena never insisted they follow her example. She allowed outcomes to speak. Over time, even resistance softened. The Olympians did not become wise overnight, but they became aware that wisdom existed among them. That awareness alone changed everything. Athena remained steady. She did not age into her role. She had arrived complete. Olympus adjusted around her, slowly, reluctantly, but permanently. Wisdom was no longer absent from the throne. It stood beside it, silent, watchful, and enduring. Athena's position was secure not by force, but by necessity. The gods had learned that without her, their rule unraveled. With her, it endured. That lesson could not be unlearned. From this balance, the future of gods and mortals would be shaped with greater care and lasting intention. Nothing in Olympus would proceed blindly again, ever. Wisdom, as Athena embodied it, was never abstract. It was practical. It existed to shape systems, guide behavior, and create structures that could endure. As the Olympians adjusted to her presence, Athena's influence extended beyond divine councils and into the foundations of human life. Athena became associated with civilization not because she ruled cities, but because she understood how cities survived. Order did not emerge naturally. It had to be designed. Laws, customs, and shared knowledge required planning and maintenance. Athena represented this continuous effort. She taught that intelligence was not merely insight, but application. Wisdom mattered only when it was used to improve stability. This belief defined her relationship with mortals. Athena did not dominate humanity. She instructed it. Among the skills attributed to her, craft and logic stood at the center. Weaving, mathematics, architecture, and engineering were not seen as separate disciplines. They were expressions of pattern recognition. To weave cloth correctly was to understand tension and balance. To build a city was to understand space, limits, and flow. Athena governed these principles. This is why she became the patron of Athens. The city did not choose her because she promised protection through violence. It chose her because she offered guidance. Athena gave the city olive trees, symbols of sustained nourishment rather than conquest. This choice reflected her values: prosperity over plunder, continuity over destruction. Athena's wisdom emphasized restraint. She taught that unchecked growth led to collapse. Excess weakened foundations. Every system required limits to remain functional. This philosophy applied equally to individuals, cities, and empires. Unlike gods, who demanded worship through fear or spectacle, Athena's reverence developed through results. Cities that followed her principles endured longer. Societies that valued learning and planning proved more resilient. Her influence spread quietly, through success rather than threat. Athena also embodied fairness. Justice to her was not emotional. It was proportional. Punishment existed not to satisfy anger, but to restore balance. She viewed law as a tool for order, not revenge. This made her judgments consistent, even when they were harsh. In governance, Athena favored councils over tyrants. Shared decision-making reduced error. Multiple perspectives strengthened outcomes. She did not believe wisdom belonged to a single voice, including her own. This belief influenced early ideas of civic participation and debate. Education was central to her domain. Knowledge preserved stability across generations. Athena valued teaching because it prevented repetition of mistakes. Ignorance was not evil, but it was dangerous. She encouraged learning as defense against chaos. Athena's wisdom also recognized limits of knowledge. She did not claim omniscience. She understood uncertainty and prepared for it. Planning accounted for risk. Strategies included contingencies. This acceptance of uncertainty separated wisdom from arrogance. Her influence on civilization extended into ethics. Athena taught that intelligence without responsibility was destructive. Cleverness used for harm undermined trust and stability. True wisdom balanced capability with accountability. This balance distinguished Athena from figures who represented raw intellect without restraint. She was not impressed by brilliance alone. She valued outcomes that served long-term stability. Short-term success meant little if it weakened the future. Athena's symbols reflected this philosophy. The owl represented observation and patience. The shield represented defense rather than aggression. The spear represented precision, not brutality. Each symbol reinforced controlled application of power. Mortals who received Athena's favor were often builders, thinkers, and planners. Heroes under her guidance succeeded through strategy rather than strength. She rewarded preparation, adaptability, and discipline. Athena did not promise protection without effort. She demanded engagement. Those who ignored her lessons suffered consequences not because she punished them, but because they exposed themselves to instability. Wisdom was offered, not imposed. This approach made Athena demanding but reliable. She did not intervene impulsively. She waited until guidance was necessary. When she acted, it was decisive and measured. Athena's role in civilization also involved preserving memory. History served as instruction. Forgetting past failures guaranteed repetition. She valued record-keeping, storytelling, and tradition as tools of continuity. Her influence encouraged specialization. Different skills served different purposes. A functional society required cooperation between varied roles. Athena respected division of labor, guided by shared goals. Athena's wisdom did not eliminate conflict, it managed it. Disputes were inevitable in complex systems. Her contribution was structure for resolution. Courts, councils, and laws replaced cycles of revenge. This shift transformed how mortals related to power. Authority became linked to responsibility. Leaders were expected to think, not merely command. Failure to do so eroded legitimacy. Athena's presence in civilization represented maturity, a movement away from impulsive survival toward deliberate organization. Societies guided by her principles were not perfect, but they were adaptable. She understood that civilization was fragile. It required constant maintenance. Wisdom was not a destination. It was a process. Athena embodied that process. Her influence extended across time not because she demanded loyalty, but because her principles proved effective. Even when forgotten, they were rediscovered. Pattern, balance, restraint, and foresight remained essential. Athena's wisdom shaped the idea that intelligence could be ethical, that thought could be disciplined, that power could be guided rather than unleashed. Through her, civilization learned that survival depended not on strength alone, but on understanding how strength should be used. This lesson would echo through every society that followed. Athena did not claim credit. Wisdom does not seek recognition. It seeks continuity. Through her influence, humanity gained tools to build, preserve, and correct itself. This was Athena's role as goddess of wisdom and civilization, not ruler of cities, but architect of their endurance, not enforcer of law, but its designer. Her legacy was not domination, but stability. Civilization did not rise because Athena commanded it to. It rose because her principles made survival possible beyond a single generation. Through planning, learning, and restraint, order replaced chaos. That transition defined her gift to the world. And that gift would soon be tested, not in peace, but in conflict. War in the world of the gods was never rare. Conflict existed as a constant force, driven by pride, rivalry, and unchecked desire. Yet Athena's relationship with war was fundamentally different from that of the other Olympians. She did not embody violence, she governed its use. Where others saw war as release, Athena saw it as failure. Conflict meant that planning had broken down. It meant restraint had been ignored. War, to Athena, was not a goal. It was a consequence. This distinction separated her from Ares, the god who represented war in its rawest form. Ares thrived in chaos. He delighted in noise, blood, and disorder. He did not care who won, only that fighting continued. Athena rejected this entirely. Athena's war was disciplined, it was calculated, it existed to end conflict quickly, not prolong it. Strategy mattered more than strength. Preparation mattered more than aggression. Victory was meaningful only if it restored stability. She taught that not every battle needed to be fought. Many conflicts could be resolved before weapons were raised. Diplomacy, deterrence, and positioning were tools of war that required intelligence rather than force. Athena valued these tools above all others. When war became unavoidable, Athena demanded control. Soldiers were expected to follow structure. Discipline preserved lives. Chaos wasted them. Athena believed that every loss weakened the future, even in victory. Her approach to warfare emphasized defense. She favored fortifications, formations, and terrain. Understanding space mattered as much as understanding weapons. Athena taught that the battlefield was not only physical, but psychological. Morale, anticipation, and deception played central roles. To know the enemy was to reduce uncertainty. To reduce uncertainty was to reduce unnecessary violence. Athena's strategies aimed to collapse resistance through understanding rather than annihilation. Athena did not glorify killing. She did not reward cruelty. Those who committed excesses in her name lost her favor. Victory achieved through brutality carried long-term consequences. Hatred bred resistance. Revenge bred cycles of violence. Athena sought finality, not escalation. This philosophy shaped how mortals remember her. Heroes under Athena's guidance succeeded not because they were the strongest, but because they were the most prepared. She favored those who observed, waited, and adapted. Athena's presence in war also reinforced justice. She distinguished between aggression and defense. War waged for domination lacked legitimacy. War waged to preserve order could be justified, but only with restraint. This made Athena an uncomfortable ally. She demanded accountability. Leaders who sought her support had to justify their cause. She did not blindly favor sides. She evaluated intent and consequence. Athena's armor symbolized this restraint, but was functional, not ornate. Protection mattered more than intimidation. Her shield deflected rather than threatened. Her spear struck with precision rather than excess. She also understood that war reshaped societies. After conflict ended, rebuilding required wisdom. Athena emphasized restoration as much as victory. Without planning for peace, war never truly ended. Athena's approach challenged traditional notions of heroism. Glory meant little to her. Survival, continuity, and learning mattered more. She taught that true strength lay in avoiding unnecessary battles. This view often put her at odds with gods and mortals alike. Many sought war for validation or gain. Athena saw through these motives. She did not reward pride, she rewarded foresight. In divine conflicts, Athena often acted behind the scenes. She advised rather than commanded. Her influence altered outcomes without spectacle. War guided by Athena ended sooner and cost less. Athena's war was also moral. She believed that power without ethics corrupted itself. Cleverness used without restraint became tyranny. Strategy without responsibility became manipulation. Athena balanced intelligence with principle. This balance defined her role. She did not deny the reality of violence. She managed it. She accepted that conflict existed, but refused to celebrate it. Athena's influence reduced suffering, not by eliminating war, but by shortening it. She believed prolonged conflict was evidence of poor leadership. Effective strategy resolved tension efficiently. Her lessons extended to governance. Leaders learned that threatening war without preparation weakened credibility. Empty aggression invited challenge. Athena taught that restraint signaled confidence, not weakness. Athena's philosophy of war also valued adaptability. No plan survived contact unchanged. Wisdom required flexibility. Rigidity led to collapse. Athena encouraged learning even during conflict. She understood that war tested systems. Logistics, communication, and coordination determine outcomes more than brute force. Athena governed these systems. Athena's presence in war shifted focus from individual valor to collective effort. Coordination replaced chaos. Discipline replaced impulse. The battlefield became an extension of planning rather than a stage for rage. This made Athena's war quieter, but more decisive. It lacked spectacle, but produced results. Those who followed her principles endured. Athena never claimed war as her domain alone. She acknowledged its cost. She accepted its necessity only when all other options failed. This restraint defined her authority. Through Athena, war became a tool rather than an addiction. It served purpose rather than appetite. This distinction mattered. Her influence did not eliminate violence from the world. It reduced its excess. It introduced thought where instinct once ruled. Athena taught that victory without wisdom was temporary. Only outcomes built on understanding lasted. War could reshape borders, but only wisdom could stabilize them. This was Athena's relationship with war. Not a goddess of bloodshed, but of disciplined conflict. Not a force of destruction, but of controlled resolution. In her presence, war lost its glory and gained direction. That shift would define countless conflicts to come, shaping how mortals fought, survived, and rebuilt. And yet, even this measured approach would be tested. For wisdom, when applied to flawed beings, often revealed their limits. Athena's judgments in war would not always be praised. Sometimes they would be questioned. Those questions would arise not on the battlefield, but in the lives of mortals who challenged the boundaries of skill, pride, and fate. That is where the next trial would begin. Athena's relationship with mortals revealed the limits of wisdom when applied to imperfect beings. She guided, instructed, and protected, but she also judged. Her judgments were not driven by anger, they were driven by principle. This distinction did not make them gentle, it made them consistent. Mortals sought Athena's favor because it promised success through skill rather than brute force. Yet that favor carried expectations. Athena did not tolerate arrogance disguised as talent. She did not reward intelligence used to elevate the self at the expense of balance. One of the clearest examples of this boundary appears in the story of Arachne. Arachne was gifted beyond ordinary measure. Her weaving displayed precision, complexity, and innovation. Those who saw her work recognized mastery. Athena herself acknowledged the skill. Conflict did not arise from ability. It arose from pride. Arachne claimed her talent required no guidance, divine or otherwise. She rejected the idea that skill carried responsibility. She challenged Athena not to learn, but to dominate. This distinction mattered. Athena did not punish Arachne for excellence. She punished her for refusing accountability. The contest between them was not about craftsmanship. It was about understanding one's place within a larger order. When Arachne's work revealed not wisdom, but mockery and provocation, the imbalance became clear. Skill had been severed from respect. Intelligence had become a weapon against structure. Athena's response was precise. She did not destroy the craft. She transformed the consequence. Arachne became what she valued above all else, a weaver, bound eternally to her skill, isolated from community. The punishment preserved the talent while removing its misuse. This judgment was not cruelty, it was containment. Athena restricted harm by limiting context. The lesson was clear. Skill without humility leads to isolation. Intelligence without restraint collapses inward. Another case often misunderstood is Athena's role in the fate of Medusa. Medusa's story exposes the tension between justice and consequence. In many versions, Medusa suffers violation within Athena's temple. Athena does not reverse the act. She responds to its aftermath. This response has been debated for centuries. To some, it appears harsh. To others, protective. Athena transforms Medusa into something feared, something untouchable. The world can no longer harm her in the same way. Athena's judgment here does not erase suffering, it redirects it. Medusa's gaze becomes defense. Isolation becomes safety. The punishment is not simple condemnation. It is a reshaping of agency under constraint. Athena's justice is not restorative in the modern sense. It does not heal wounds, it prevents repetition. Her priority is structural stability, not emotional resolution. This difference often places Athena at odds with mortal expectations. Mortals seek fairness, measured by compassion. Athena seeks balance, measured by outcome. These are not always aligned. Athena's judgments are consistent because they follow principle, not circumstance. She applies standards equally, regardless of sympathy. This makes her reliable, but severe. Mortals who failed under Athena's guidance were not abandoned, they were limited. Athena believed limitation prevented greater harm. Freedom without restraint led to chaos. Her trials were not designed to humiliate. They were designed to expose imbalance. When mortals challenged divine order, Athena tested whether their intelligence served more than ego. Those who learned were elevated. Those who refused were constrained. Athena did not destroy potential. She redirected it away from destabilization. Athena's involvement in mortal trials revealed her belief that wisdom must serve structure. Talent alone did not grant exemption. Intelligence increased responsibility. This approach shaped her reputation. Athena was respected, not loved. She did not soften judgments to preserve approval. She preserved order. In many stories, mortals misinterpreted her silence as indifference. In truth, Athena often waited to see whether correction would occur without intervention. When it did not, her response was decisive. Athena's judgments also reinforced boundaries between mortal and divine. Crossing those boundaries required humility. Those who attempted equality without understanding faced consequence. Yet Athena did not seek submission. She sought alignment. Mortals who accepted guidance prospered. Those who rejected it learned through limitation. Her trials were not arbitrary. Each reflected a core principle. Intelligence without humility destabilizes systems. Skill without accountability corrodes trust. Pride fractures order. Athena's role as judge was therefore necessary. Without judgment, wisdom had no teeth. Without consequence, instruction lost meaning. Athena accepted that her judgments would be questioned. She did not revise them to satisfy sentiment. Wisdom did not require approval to function. This aspect of Athena reveals why she remained separate from both cruelty and mercy. She operated in a narrower space, a space governed by outcome rather than emotion. Her trials shaped myths, not to comfort mortals, but to warn them. These stories preserved boundaries. They taught caution. They discouraged excess. Athena's justice was not kind. It was stable. Stability, to her, mattered more than reassurance. Through these trials, mortals learned that wisdom demanded restraint, not only in action, but in self-perception. Knowing one's limits preserved balance. Athena's judgments ensured that intelligence remained constructive. Without them, skill would devour itself. This is why Athena remained feared as much as revered. Her presence promised clarity, but also consequence. She offered guidance, but demanded responsibility. The trials of mortals were not failures of compassion. They were exercises in containment. Athena ensured that wisdom served continuity rather than ego. This balance defined her role. Not savior, not tyrant, judge. And as these stories spread, they reinforced the understanding that wisdom, when challenged, does not argue. It corrects. Those corrections would echo far beyond individual lives, shaping how mortals understood intelligence, humility, and consequence. And soon, those lessons would be tested on a scale far larger than any single individual. They would be tested in war that decided the fate of cities. The Trojan War was not defined by strength alone. Many warriors fought, many died. Yet the outcome was decided not on open fields, but in the quiet application of intelligence. This is where Athena's influence became most visible. Athena did not fight in the Trojan War as a warrior seeking glory. She did not rush into battle or demand recognition. Her role was strategic. She shaped decisions before swords were raised and determined outcomes long before the final blow. From the beginning, the war revealed the limits of brute force. Armies clashed repeatedly without resolution. Victory shifted but never settled. Years passed. Strength alone proved insufficient. Athena understood this early. She aligned herself with those who listened, not those who were strongest, but those who could adapt. Her favor followed intelligence, not loyalty. This made her involvement controversial even among the gods. Athena's most significant influence came through Odysseus. Odysseus was not the greatest warrior of the Greeks. He did not dominate through physical power. His value lay in perception. He observed patterns others ignored. He anticipated reactions rather than charging ahead. Athena recognized this alignment immediately. Through Odysseus, Athena demonstrated her philosophy of war. She did not provide strength, she provided insight. She sharpened judgment rather than weapons. The Trojan War had reached a stalemate. Direct assaults failed. Attrition exhausted both sides. Athena did not seek escalation. She sought resolution. The idea of the Trojan horse reflected her approach. It was not an act of deception for its own sake. It was an application of understanding. The Trojans' confidence, fatigue, and desire for closure became vulnerabilities. Athena did not create these weaknesses. She identified them. A horse was not a symbol of trickery alone. It was a test of discipline. Accepting it required the Trojans to abandon caution. Rejecting it required restraint. Athena understood which choice pride would favor. This strategy avoided prolonged bloodshed. It concentrated conflict into a single decisive moment. The war ended not through annihilation, but collapse of structure. Athena's involvement here reveals a critical principle. War is not won by destroying the enemy's body. It is won by dismantling the enemy's decision-making. Throughout the conflict, Athena supported actions that reduced uncertainty. She favored reconnaissance over charge, planning over impulse, coordination over individual valor. She did not remove risk, she managed it. Athena's guidance extended beyond strategy. She influenced morale. Confidence grounded in preparation replaced desperation. Those under her influence acted with clarity rather than rage. Her presence also limited excess. She did not tolerate unnecessary cruelty. Acts that prolonged suffering without strategic value gained no favor. This restraint distinguished her guidance from chaos. Athena's role in the war also exposed the flaws of unchecked heroism. Individual feats meant little without coordination. Strength without direction failed repeatedly. This lesson reshaped how victory was understood. Success became collective, not personal. Athena shifted focus from individual glory to systemic effectiveness. Even among the gods, Athena's approach drew attention. Other deities interfered emotionally, driven by favoritism or resentment. Athena remained consistent. Her decisions followed logic, regardless of allegiance. She did not deny the cost of the war. Loss remained unavoidable, but she reduced waste. She shortened duration. She limited destruction where possible. Athena's guidance in the Trojan War demonstrated the difference between cleverness and wisdom. Cleverness seeks advantage. Wisdom seeks stability after advantage is gained. The war's end did not bring peace immediately. Consequences followed. Athena did not erase aftermath. She prepared for it. Her continued support of Odysseus after the war reinforces this. Victory created new challenges. Return required endurance, adaptability, and learning. Athena understood that survival after war demanded as much intelligence as victory within it. Athena's influence throughout the Trojan War affirmed her identity. She was not a goddess of conquest. She was a goddess of resolution. Her strategies did not rely on deception alone. They relied on accurate understanding of human behavior. Athena saw patterns others missed. Pride, fatigue, fear, and hope shaped decisions more than weapons. By working within these realities, Athena achieved outcomes that brute force could not. The Trojan War stands as a demonstration of her philosophy. Intelligence applied patiently reshaped fate. The strongest walls fell not to force, but to misjudgment. Athena did not claim credit. She did not demand praise. Her success was visible in absence of prolongation. The war ended. This restraint defined her legacy. She did not replace violence with illusion. She replaced chaos with planning. Through the Trojan War, mortals learned that wars are not won by those who strike hardest, but by those who think longest. This lesson endured far beyond the battlefield. Athena's role revealed that wisdom does not eliminate conflict. It limits it. It channels it toward conclusion rather than endless repetition. In this war, Athena demonstrated that strategy was not manipulation, but responsibility. Ending conflict efficiently reduced suffering. That outcome justified her methods. Her influence also revealed the danger of ignoring wisdom. Those who dismissed caution paid the price. The Trojan War did not punish weakness, it punished miscalculation. Athena's presence made these miscalculations visible. She did not force mistakes, she allowed them. This approach defined her guidance throughout the war. She did not override free will, she revealed consequence. In doing so, Athena shaped not only the outcome of the Trojan War, understanding of warfare itself. Intelligence became inseparable from success. This lesson would echo through future generations. It would define how leaders approached conflict. It would influence how survival was understood. Athena's role in the Trojan War was not dramatic. It was decisive. And yet, after all the planning, judgment, and restraint, Athena remained unchanged. She did not celebrate victory. She did not mourn loss publicly. Wisdom observes. It records. It prepares for what follows. For Athena, the war was never the end. It was a test of principles, and those principles held. What remained was the question of identity. Athena had guided mortal, shaped wars, judged pride, and stabilized power. Yet she herself remained apart from the cycles that bound others. That separation would define the next aspect of her nature, one that was often misunderstood, but central to her independence. The story now turns inward, toward what Athena refused, and why that refusal mattered. Athena's identity was defined as much by what she refused as by what she embodied. Among the Olympians, relationships, desire, and lineage shaped power. Gods asserted influence through unions. Alliances formed through marriage. Authority extended through offspring. Athena rejected this structure entirely. She remained untouched by romantic attachment, not because she lacked desire, but because she chose independence. Athena's virginity was not innocence, it was autonomy. In Greek myth, virginity did not signify purity in the modern sense. It signified self-governance. A virgin goddess belonged to no one. Her will was not shared. Her purpose was not diluted through obligation. Athena's refusal of marriage preserved clarity. This choice separated her from many gods and goddesses. Others were bound by jealousy, inheritance, and rivalry through children. Athena avoided these entanglements. Her power remained singular and undivided. Athena did not reject intimacy out of fear. She rejected distraction. Desire, when unchecked, disrupted judgment. Attachment altered priorities. Athena understood this risk and refused it. Her virginity ensured neutrality. She could judge without bias. She could guide without favoritism, rooted in personal bonds. Her decisions were not compromised by affection or resentment tied to lineage. This independence reinforced her authority. Athena did not inherit power through a partner. She did not extend it through children. She existed complete. In myth, this made her difficult to challenge. There was no family leverage, no emotional vulnerability, Athena's relationships were intellectual, not romantic. She aligned through principle, not attraction. This choice also protected her from cycles that define divine history. Succession had always driven conflict. Fathers feared sons, mothers feared replacement. Athena removed herself entirely from this pattern. Her virginity symbolized finality. She would not be replaced. She would not be surpassed by her own creation. Wisdom, once embodied, did not need succession. This permanence unsettled the gods. Most were temporary in influence, subject to changing alliances. Athena was constant. Her independence ensured continuity. Athena's refusal of marriage did not isolate her. It clarified her role. She became a figure of stability rather than growth. Growth brought risk. Stability preserved order. Mortals often misunderstood this aspect of Athena. They projected moral judgment where none existed. Athena's virginity was not moral superiority. It was strategic clarity. She valued connection through shared purpose rather than possession. Loyalty did not require ownership. Respect did not require intimacy. Athena demonstrated that authority could exist without domination. Her independence also reinforced her role as protector. She guided heroes without claiming them. She aided cities without ruling them. She influenced outcomes without binding herself to them. Athena's virginity preserved her perspective. She remained outside cycles of desire and loss. This distance allowed her to observe patterns across time without emotional distortion. This separation did not make her cold. It made her focused. Athena understood that not every strength required expression through attachment. Some strengths required restraint. Her refusal also challenged assumptions about power. Power did not require reproduction. Influence did not require lineage. Athena existed beyond these expectations. This aspect of her identity reinforced her symbolism. She represented the mind, not the body. Thought, not instinct. Planning, not impulse. Athena's virginity also protected her from compromise. Romantic alliances often demanded concession. Athena made none. Her decisions remained consistent. In rejecting marriage, Athena preserved equality with Zeus. She was not subordinate through union. She was not elevated through partnership. She stood independently. This independence made her uniquely suited to governance. She did not favor heirs. She did not plan dynasties. Her concern remained structural, not personal. Athena's choice echoed through her actions. She did not claim victory as legacy. She did not seek remembrance through descendants. Her legacy existed through systems she shaped. Wisdom did not need inheritance. It needed preservation. Athena's virginity was therefore not absence, but boundary. A refusal to dilute purpose. A decision to remain whole. This boundary also explained her restraint. Desire often drove excess. Athena avoided excess by design. Her clarity depended on it. She remained eternal not because she avoided time, but because she avoided fragmentation. Her identity did not splinter across relationships. Athena's independence allowed her to remain consistent across generations. Mortals changed, cities rose and fell. Athena's principles endured. This aspect of her nature completed her identity. Goddess of wisdom, war, justice, civilization, and restraint. Her virginity unified these domains under one principle: self-mastery. Athena mastered herself before guiding others. This mastery preserved her authority. In a pantheon driven by appetite, Athena stood apart, not above, but beyond. Her refusal defined her strength. This final aspect of her character explains why she remained unchanged while others evolved. Athena did not grow into her role. She arrived complete and remained so. Her independence was not rejection of life. It was commitment to purpose. With this, Athena's identity was fully formed. She had shaped gods, guided mortals, judged pride, restrained war, and preserved civilization. What remained was her echo, the influence she left behind long after myths faded. That legacy would outlast temples, cities, and even belief itself. Athena's legacy did not depend on worship. Temples could fall, cities could burn, stories could fade. What Athena represented did not disappear with belief. It embedded itself into how humans learned to survive complexity. Unlike gods defined by spectacle, Athena endured through function. Wisdom remained necessary long after myths lost authority. Strategy continued to matter, planning continued to matter, restraint continued to matter. Athena's influence persisted wherever thought guided action. She represented a shift in how power was understood. Power no longer belonged only to those who could dominate. It belonged to those who could anticipate, those who could balance force with judgment. This idea reshaped leadership across cultures and centuries. Athena's legacy lived in law, where rules replaced revenge. It lived in governance, where councils replaced tyrants. It lived in education, where knowledge was preserved rather than hoarded. These systems did not require belief in Athena to function. They required her principles. Wisdom as Athena embodied it was not optimism. It did not promise perfect outcomes. It promised survivable ones. It reduced catastrophe. It extended continuity. It accepted imperfection and planned around it. Her influence also reshaped heroism. Strength alone was no longer enough. Heroes needed intelligence, restraint, and adaptability. This redefinition changed which stories endured. Clever heroes survived where reckless ones fell. Athena's legacy also revealed limits. Wisdom did not eliminate suffering, it managed it. It did not prevent failure, it made recovery possible. This realism ensured its survival. Across philosophy, science, and statecraft, Athena's principles resurfaced repeatedly. Pattern recognition, systems thinking, ethical responsibility tied to intelligence. These ideas did not originate solely from myth, but myth preserved them in memory. Athena did not seek devotion. She sought application. Her legacy thrived where her guidance was practiced, not praised. Even today, her influence remains visible in how problems are analyzed, in how conflict is managed, in how societies value planning over impulse. Athena exists wherever thought precedes action. She was never the loudest god. She did not need to be. Wisdom does not demand attention. It proves itself through outcome. Athena's story ends not with disappearance, but integration. She did not leave the world. She became part of how the world works. And that is why she endures. If you want more long-form mythology told with the same calm, immersive approach, subscribe to the channel and like the video.